Today on our 2017 Subaru Forester, we're going to be taking a look at and installing the Curt Class 2 Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C12100. What I like about this hitch is that where it comes out to, it's not too far out to where you'll hit it, but it's far enough out to where it's going to give you plenty of clearance with any accessories that you may have in order to put and use. So that way they shouldn't get too close to the rear of your vehicle. It gives us a pretty clean look because primarily what you're going to see is the receiver tube here. And this receiver tube is a 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch receiver tube opening with a nice reinforcement collar around it that gives it a nice heavy duty look. Here we've got the 1/2 inch hitch pin hole. It's got a plate style safety chain connection point, and on both sides it's got nice large diameter holes in order to attach your safety chain connections. So just about any size that you may have, you shouldn't have a problem getting them attached there. When behind the vehicle, unless you're down low, you really can't see much of this cross tube here. So it's pretty well hidden, maintains a nice clean look on the vehicle. It's got 3 attachment points on either frame rail. This hitch is really going to be good if you've already got 1 1/4 inch accessories, such as bike racks or cargo carriers, or even ball mounts. This hitch features a 350 pound max tongue weight rating and a 3,500 pound gross trailer weight rating. And you'll want to be sure that you check the owner's manual to see that your vehicle is rated for that type of weight. Now with this hitch, Curt requires a stabilization strap with all non-trailer loads. And if you need to pick one up, you can get that on our site, part number 18050. Now, let's give you some measurements to help with your selection of hitch-mounted accessories such as ball mounts, bike racks, or cargo carriers. The distance from the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost part of the rear bumper is about 3.5 inches, and the distance from the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening to the ground is about 14 1/4 inches. Now, let's show you how to install this hitch. First thing we're going to need to do to begin our installation is we're going to need to get this exhaust out of our way so that we can access the holes that we'll be using in order to put our hardware through in the frame. So we've got 2 hangers that we're going to need to remove. We've got one over here on the driver's side of the exhaust, and then one over here tucked inside the fender. So I'm going to take those off. And you can put a little bit of spray lubricant on here to help with the removal. It'll just help them slide a little bit better. In order to take those off, you can use a pair of Channellock pliers. You can also use a pry bar. Then just let it hang there. Once we've got it loosened up, at this flange here, it's got 2 bolts that go through it. And so you'll need a 14mm socket and wrench. And I'm just going to go ahead and take this whole muffler off because that's going to give me plenty of room to work. So I'll loosen those most of the way. And then I can support the muffler and take the nuts off the rest of the way. And then I can just work it out of there. Then I can set my muffler carefully off to the side. So now we'll need to take a 10mm socket and remove the 4 screws that are holding in this heat shield, because we need to take this heat shield down so we can trim it to gain full access to all of our mounting points. And then here are our 3 mounting points right here. And we'll just need to take these little rubber plugs out in order to gain access to the holes. So you can take a pair of needle nose pliers and just pull them all out of there. And then we'll repeat that same process for the other side. So then on our heat shield here, what we'll be doing is the holes that were on the frame rail we're just going to trim up along this line almost to that front hole in order to cut across, so that way we'll have full access to our mounting holes that'll run right along here. So that's the area that I'll be cutting out. Now I'm just going to use some tin snips in order to trim this heat shield. So then once I've got it trimmed here, I can reinstall it. So now, as you can see, that gives me good access to my 3 mounting holes. So now the next thing we'll need to do on both sides, the middle hole that we'll be using for the mounting, we need to enlarge that a little bit. And I'm going to use a step drill bit to make it a little bit bigger, and then I'll use a grinding bit in order to widen it a little bit so we can fit our hardware through there. You can also use a file, if you have one, in order to do this. So now what we can do is we can take our fish wire, we'll take the coiled end and send it up through the hole that we'll be pulling our carriage bolt through. And then we'll fish that out through the hole that we enlarged. So then once we've got it fed through there, we can take one of our square hole spacer blocks, put it up onto our fish wire, and then take one of our 1/2-inch carriage bolts and feed it into the coiled end of our fish wire. So then with that, we can feed them up into the frame. And then just gently pull them down into position. So then for this forwardmost hole, we'll do that same thing. And then for the third one, we'll use the reverse fish method. So we'll put our spacer block and carriage bolt onto the fish wire. Then we can feed our bolt through first, and then the block, and then pull them back into position. And we'll repeat this process for the other side. It's a good idea to get a second set of hands, and then once we get it up into position, we'll get a flange nut started on each side. Then we can get the rest of our flange nuts started. So now before we tighten them up, we'll want to be sure that our hitch is pulled as far towards the rear of the vehicle as possible and that it's centered. And then using a 3/4 inch socket, we can tighten up our flange nuts. And we'll do that for the other side as well. So once we've got them tightened down, take a torque wrench and make sure they're torqued down to the specification listed in the instructions. So once we've got our hitch all torqued down, we can reinstall our exhaust. Then we can reinstall our hangers. And that's going to complete our look at and installation of the Curt Class 2 trailer hitch receiver, part number C12100 on our 2017 Subaru Forester.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.